Rick Moranis was once one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood comedy. During the 1980s and early 1990s, he appeared in some of the most successful and memorable films of the era, often playing the awkward, intelligent, and unexpectedly lovable everyman. He wasn't a traditional leading man, but his presence became essential to family movies, science fiction comedies, and parodies that defined a generation. Then, at the height of his success, he seemingly disappeared. For years, audiences asked the same question: whatever happened to Rick Moranis? Before Hollywood, Moranis wasn't chasing fame. He was born and raised in Canada and built his early career in comedy through radio and television. He became a key cast member on the influential sketch comedy series SCTV, where he developed sharp characters, musical parodies, and an understated comedic style that set him apart. His humor wasn't loud or aggressive. It was intelligent, dry, and self-aware. That unique approach helped him stand out and soon drew attention from filmmakers looking for something different. His film breakthrough came when studios realized he could bring warmth and humor to roles that might otherwise feel flat. In Ghostbusters, he played Louis Tully, a nervous accountant whose social awkwardness became one of the film's comedic highlights. The role made him instantly recognizable to mass audiences. Instead of being overshadowed by bigger personalities, Moranis carved out his own space. His performance proved he could hold his own in a blockbuster without needing to dominate the screen. From there, his career accelerated quickly. He appeared in Little Shop of Horrors, where his musical ability and comedic timing combined into one of his most celebrated performances. Soon after came Spaceballs, in which he delivered a self-aware parody that became iconic in comedy history. Then, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids turned him into a family movie star. As Wayne Selinsky, he played a distracted but loving father whose inventions caused chaos, a role that resonated with both kids and parents. The film's success led to sequels and cemented Moranis as a reliable box office presence. At this point, Rick Moranis wasn't just supporting casts, he was headlining films, appearing in major franchises, and enjoying long-term studio trust. His characters were consistent but never repetitive. He represented a specific kind of Hollywood appeal: intelligent, gentle, funny, and approachable. He didn't rely on edgy shock humor or physical dominance. Instead, his performances made audiences feel comfortable. He became one of the safest and most respected comedic bets in the industry. While his career appeared stable on the surface, his personal life was changing quietly in the background. In the early 1990s, Moranis' wife became seriously ill. As her condition worsened, his priorities shifted. At the same time, he was raising young children. Faced with increasing demands from Hollywood and growing responsibilities at home, he began making choices that did not align with the traditional career path of a movie star. After his wife passed away, Rick Moranis found himself a single parent. This moment marked a turning point. He did not announce a retirement, and there was no dramatic public statement. Instead, he slowly stopped accepting most live-action roles. He turned down projects that required extended time away from his children or the intense filming schedules that blockbuster films demand. This decision surprised many, especially because his career was still strong and profitable. Rather than framing this moment as loss or failure, Moranis treated it as a practical decision. He chose stability, routine, and presence over fame. To audiences and media, it looked like he vanished. But in reality, he was intentionally stepping away from an industry that rarely pauses for personal life. He continued working occasionally, mostly through voice roles or smaller projects that allowed him to stay close to home. These choices kept him connected to creativity without sacrificing family responsibilities. Over time, his absence became more noticeable. New generations of actors filled the roles he once dominated. Meanwhile, Moranis avoided Hollywood events, interviews, and press cycles. This absence created speculation, but the truth remained simple. He wasn't pushed out, he didn't burn bridges, he didn't lose relevance overnight. He simply stopped participating in the system as it was structured. As years passed, Rick Moranis became something unusual in modern entertainment. A famous actor remembered fondly without scandal, controversy, or decline. His earlier films continued to air on television and streaming platforms, introducing him to younger audiences who began asking the same question their parents once did: where did he go? By the end of the 1990s, it was clear that Rick Moranis had made a deliberate trade. He exchanged Hollywood visibility for privacy and normalcy. He preserved his legacy by walking away before it was diluted. This choice set the foundation for why his disappearance still sparks curiosity today. Understanding what happened to Rick Moranis begins with understanding that he didn't fall from fame. He stepped away from it. As the years went on, Rick Moranis' decision to step back from Hollywood became increasingly rare in an industry that rewards constant visibility. Unlike many actors whose careers slow due to lack of demand or controversy, Moranis remained respected by studios and colleagues. The offers did not completely stop. What changed was his willingness to accept them. He chose projects selectively, often declining roles that would require long filming schedules or relocation. This wasn't an act of rejection toward Hollywood, but an adjustment to a life that no longer revolved around career ambition. During this period, Moranis continued working in limited capacities that suited his priorities. He lent his voice to animated projects and made occasional cameo appearances that did not require full immersion in the industry. These roles allowed him to stay creatively active without sacrificing time with his children. Unlike many public figures who go quiet but remain surrounded by attention, Moranis lived privately. He avoided red carpets, award shows, and press tours. As a result, new audiences grew up without seeing him, while older fans remembered him exclusively through the roles he had already completed. The absence of drama surrounding his exit became a defining part of his story. Moranis was never involved in legal disputes, public feuds, or tabloid scandals. There were no explosive interviews about mistreatment in Hollywood, no accusations, and no attempts to reinvent himself through controversy. This silence created a vacuum that people filled with speculation, but the facts never changed. His withdrawal from Hollywood was practical, intentional, and grounded in family responsibilities rather than career dissatisfaction. As time passed, nostalgia played a role in keeping his name alive. His films continued to cycle through television and streaming platforms, maintaining relevance among new generations. Characters like Wayne Selinsky and Louis Tully became symbols of a specific era of filmmaking, one driven by creativity rather than personal brand building. Moranis' performances were remembered for sincerity, not spectacle. This steady presence in pop culture helped preserve his reputation even in his absence. Occasionally, reports surfaced about Rick Moranis considering a return to acting. These appearances were never framed as comebacks fueled by financial need or desperation. Instead, they were presented as personal choices aligned with his comfort level and interests. When he did step back into the public eye, it was brief and controlled. He did not engage in promotional campaigns or attempt to reclaim stardom. These moments reinforced the perception that fame was no longer a priority. The industry's response to Moranis' absence has been largely respectful. Directors and co-stars frequently speak about him positively, noting his professionalism and talent. There is no narrative of betrayal or bitterness. In an environment where stepping away often leads to erasure, Moranis managed to retain goodwill and admiration. This quiet respect distinguishes his story from others who left Hollywood under pressure or controversy. In recent years, discussions about work-life balance have made Moranis' choices appear increasingly relevant. Conversations around burnout, parental responsibility, and mental health have reframed his decision as progressive rather than unusual. He prioritized family before it became a widely celebrated value in entertainment culture. In doing so, he demonstrated that stepping back does not erase one's legacy. Instead, it can protect it. Looking back, Rick Moranis' career trajectory challenges traditional definitions of success. He achieved widespread recognition, led major films, and then stopped chasing visibility. Many entertainers fear fading relevance, but Moranis' reputation remained intact because his work spoke for itself. His legacy is not measured by continuous output, but by the lasting appeal of the roles he chose. This is why audiences still wonder about him rather than forgetting him. The question, "Whatever happened to Rick Moranis?" suggests mystery, but the answer is straightforward. He became a parent first and an actor second. He replaced premieres with presence and applause with responsibility. While Hollywood continued without him, his absence became part of his story. It represented a choice rarely made at the height of a successful career. In the end, Rick Moranis didn't disappear. He opted out. He demonstrated that stepping away can be an act of control rather than retreat. His films remain part of cinematic history not because he clung to relevance, but because he left at a moment when audiences still wanted more. That restraint preserved his place in pop culture and ensured that he would always be remembered with curiosity rather than regret. Whatever happened to Rick Moranis is not a story about loss, decline, or failure. It is a story about boundaries. He chose a path that valued family over fame and peace over pressure. That choice explains both his absence and why his name still sparks interest decades later.